No matter how critically acclaimed a game is, you're always going to get a good group of people who dislike the game, whether it's for its gameplay, community, or any other reason. Which is fair. You can't really decide what other people will find fun or not. But in recent years, I can't really think of a game that's been universally loved, or at least to the same extent as Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 is. Now look, I thought of every possible reason to make a video about this game with some kind of message or end goal, as I usually do for my videos. But I've realised the only reason I want to talk about this game is to glaze it. So I am making this video purely for the love of the game, with a wee. I think it'd be very easy to let this game fall under your radar if you've never played it before, even if you've heard all the acclaim the game gets. I don't know about yous, but when I hear the word simulator when talking about games, I mentally check out. There are a few simulator games that I like, but they're mostly life sims. I played and kinda enjoyed my time with SimCity 3000, even if I did keep making Tala 2.0, but it really wasn't enough to warrant me to keep playing. Plus, it felt like there was an incredibly steep learning curve, which is one of the main things that puts me off simulator games. But Rollercoaster Tycoon is different. It presented itself to me in a dream, and what I mean by that is that I fell asleep watching some bullshit and I woke up with a Marcel Voss video playing and decided, fuck it, why not? Rollercoaster Tycoon was created in 1999 by Scottish game developer Chris Sawyer, with the sequel being released in 2002. And in every single Rollercoaster Tycoon video ever made, it is a legal requirement to note, Chris Sawyer coded the whole game in assembly. This is genuinely an impressive feat, considering that assembly is a very low-level coding language, making it very complex to code in. I'm just being mean and jaded because every single rollercoaster video starts with this fact. Being in such a low-level coding language also means that it's very accessible to mod by those who know how, which is where we get Open RCT2. It is basically a combination of the first two games with modern-day settings, widescreen, online, etc. This is the version I played, but everything I say in this video applies to Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, and to a lesser extent, Rollercoaster Tycoon 1. RCT2 is all about making your own theme parks, building paths, decorations, rides, even your own roller coasters. The main mode of playing is through scenario play. Now, normally when a sandbox game like this gives me scenarios or set missions, I'm not fucking doing them. Like, fuck off. I'm not doing chores. I want to build Little St. James. But in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, the scenarios are incredibly fun. There's only one or two that I'd say I actively dislike. Especially in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, the scenarios are perfectly balanced between giving you creative freedom to do as you please, whilst also having theming or a goal you have to keep your eye on. That's what sets it apart from other simulator games for me. Other sim games require you to either read a whole dictionary about traffic management, water networks, electrical plants, just to get you to grasps with the game you're playing, whilst other ones don't take it far enough and you just look at the screen and scratch your balls. RCT2 hits that sweet spot of being intuitive enough that you can let a lot of the stuff run by itself, but if you do not pay attention, you will slowly start to fuck up your park. It's great. I don't feel like I'm constantly under pressure to multitask 50 different things, but it also doesn't feel like I'm just watching a video. Each action, ride, and coaster matters towards the park. And actually, let's talk about that. The biggest part of the game, the coasters. Now, I won't lie, building my own roller coasters wasn't actually that much of a selling point to me when I first started. Not to mention, it felt very daunting whilst I was still learning the controls. Normally I'd just build the pre-built ones, but when you finally sit down and build your own one, I definitely see the appeal. The trial and error of it is one of the best parts for me. Building a design, testing it, reworking it, finally getting it to a stage where it won't kill anybody who gets on it, and finally watching it perform a full loop. This might sound a bit pretentious, but it's that feeling of when you were a kid and you were making roller coasters out of like Lego or something and you were trying to get that successful ride across your room. That being said, not all rides are successful. Just like real life, rides suffer breakdowns, which could be before testing or after testing. Most of these are fairly harmless, just more of an annoyance than anything. But if you get one in the wrong conditions, people always joke about the I love killing guests in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2. I'm such a fucked up psycho. But I don't know, I find it very sad. All your music cuts out and all you hear is the screams and explosions of your loyal patrons dying. It's very somber, it's haunting. I don't know, I guess I don't like seeing innocent people die. That being said, if you do go out of your way to make death traps, it can be fairly fun, especially in Sandbox. Hello there guys, my name is Sam the Gamer, and today yous are going to be witnessing my new roller coaster. It's called the Chode-splosion. I'm going to be putting my friends on it, Indy, Azelle, Breadman, Party Pug TV, and Cash. They're all going to go on the Chode-splosion, so yeah, let's get that sorted. Okay guys, my friends are tunneling in, and we are on our way. We are on our way, guys. And lift off in 3. I think we're still waiting on people. Hold on. That was extremely underwhelming. That was like not funny. What? They wasn't even a fucking noise. That sucked. Fuck this shit. But all these crashes would mean nothing without the iconic guests that inhabit your park. Watching the guests interact with your park is the equivalent of watching like a virtual ant farm. Thousands of little guys that all look the same. Most of the time you'll be looking at how the guests look as a group, almost like a colony. But there's nothing stopping you from zooming in and focusing on anyone you want. I like to do this from time to time. I don't know, I just find it really interesting. Obviously, guests are supposed to be simplistic, but honestly, there's a lot more depth to them than you'd expect. Obviously, you can see their individual thoughts to gauge feedback, but there's other cool aspects towards the guests, like them having favourite rides, preferences for different ride intensities, seeing what items are in their inventory. These might seem like small cosmetic changes, but they actually have an impact towards how your guests interact with your park. The intensity preferences make sure that guests don't just flock to the most or least intense rides. They'll evenly disperse to certain rides based on the intensity and their preferences. Guests will only carry rubbish items for a certain time before littering, so if you see a guest is carrying a load of shite on them, you place more bins to make sure they don't get litter and decrease your park value. The impact of these things really only comes into effect when viewing guests as a whole, so the ability to take a look at each guest individually, it's kind of a cosmetic element, but it's really appreciated because it makes the park feel a lot more realistic when it didn't have to. I don't think many people would be bitching and moaning if Rollercoaster Tycoon wasn't realistic. As you scratch that, people complain about fucking anything. I really love the art style of this game. And I think that's down to the fact that it's an art style that perfectly encapsulates a time in gaming. A time that I wasn't around for, so it has a lot of novelty to somebody like me who didn't really get to see lots of games like this growing up. Although late 90s and early 2000s graphics are cool and aesthetic nowadays, the Rollercoaster Tycoon art style really hasn't been adopted by anything or anybody else, with one or two exceptions. So it's not really worn out its welcome like other pixel art styles. And novelty aside, I just think a lot of the artwork is really unique and the sprite work is iconic. Except for the view button, which is just a photorealistic eye.
Let me look at you.
There is this feeling of whimsy that comes with this game that you get as soon as you boot it up. It seems to really rub off on you because in most games I try to maintain a level of seriousness, even if the game doesn't really call for it. But in RCT, a lot of the time I end up just calling my roller coasters something fucking stupid like Gimp Machine, Big Smelly Boner 3000. Some of my favourite names include my go-kart track featuring 9 blue cars and a singular white Ford Bronco. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to OJ's Great Escape. If you can't transmit, you must acquit. Euthanasia, sponsored by Pepsi Max.
I love miners.
After only a few weeks of picking it up, I feel like this is genuinely one of the best games ever made. You might be baffled by that statement. There's a lot of games that are a lot more complex, take bigger risks, and are overall more widely praised. But I think RCT2 is like ice cream. Ice cream may not be the actual best food in the world, but there's very few people who actively dislike it. Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 is like that. Yes, it is probably not the actual best game in the world, okay? It doesn't do anything super extraordinary, but it's so hard to say anything bad about it, which is hard to say for basically any of my other favorite games. Genuinely, I've looked and I struggle to find a bad word about the game. The only negative reviews I found were people on Steam surprised that a game from 1999 didn't run perfectly on their machine. What a shocker. But there was nothing bad about the actual gameplay. There was this review which criticized RCT2's few differences from the original game, which, I mean, that is fair. But nowadays, you can just buy the second one and skip the first one, so that's not really a problem. But this review also said that the game's ugly, and like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yes, how rancid, especially when compared to what your competition was doing. This game is just such a change of pace compared to everything else I've been playing in recent years. It's just refreshing. It also helps that this game kind of has a skill ceiling in terms of designing parks. I like to think that my parks are somewhat well designed with good scenery, but if you have a look around, you can find park recreations or custom parks that are genuinely beautiful. I guess that's one thing I can keep striving for while playing this game. And to anybody says, oh, but you're using OpenRCT2, that's a mod that makes the game better, that's not a fair review. If people can review games from years ago and give them reviews with the thought of, oh, it was amazing considering the time of its release, then I feel like I should be able to modernize the game to be able to fairly review it within the scope of this day and age, rather than when it released. Even still, OpenRCT2 only adds quality of life improvements. There's nothing majorly different going on during normal gameplay. But in conclusion, this game is goated. Go play it if you haven't. It's like 3 doubloons. It's fairly cheap. I don't know how to end this video. I normally have like a message or a comparison or something, but